Welcome to the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast, joined by Sam and EJ, and then Anthony Russo coming in with audio issues at the last minute. Anthony, you're still having audio issues because we can't hear you.
Might be muted.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't hear you.
So
go check your audio input settings. Go check your audio input settings.
Figuring out his audio issues. Sam, Anthony, EJ have been breaking down the tight end class for the last 2 weeks. This is the third and final week of doing tight end scouting reports. Sam, how are you feeling about the tight end class after going through, I think, 18 of the better prospects?
I mean, I'm feeling pretty good about like the top part of day 3 kind of grouping, but I think there's depth in this class, but there's not a ton of star power, which we kind of figured going in. It feels like it's usually that way when we enter a season, but sometimes guys rise to the top. This year, we haven't really had that happen yet. I think I'll end up with a few more tight ends in the top 100 than I was expecting, though. So I found some guys upon rewatching that I think I liked a little bit better than I did going into the year.
And EJ, how are you feeling about the tight end group this year?
Yeah, it's like Sam said, it's not a lot of star power. Even at the top of the draft, the so-called star is a good player, but it's nobody. It's not going to seriously wow you. But it's some depth throughout the class. It's some guys that are going to make some rosters. There are some guys that are some developmental pieces. There are some guys that's going to help out on special teams. A lot of tight end too. So it's a lot of 12 personnel tight ends. But yeah, like it's just going through these guys. I've come across a bunch of guys that I wouldn't have had on my radar before. So it's a good exercise.
So EJ, which tight ends were new to your radar, if you don't mind me asking?
Honestly, everybody except Kenyon Sadiq, because I hadn't started on the tight end class. So pretty much everybody except for Kenyon Sadiq was new to me. So it was a fresh watch.
Cool. Anthony, did we get audio yet? Nope. I saw you shake your head. Even though I couldn't hear you, I could almost imagine what you were saying. So the tight ends that we are going to talk about today, DJ Rogers from TCU, Brett Norfleet from Missouri, Justin Joly from NC State, Eli Raridon from Notre Dame, and then Kenyon Sadiq from Oregon. And EJ, do you want to kick off DJ Rogers from TCU? He was a player I saw week 1 against North Carolina. I had to look him up to find out if he was draft eligible. He was, and I think he's had a pretty good year, but you tell me what I don't know yet. When
I first looked him up, my first question is, why are you at TCU? Like, looking at his bio, listen to this. He chose TCU over, he was a 4-star coming out of high school. He chose TCU over Alabama, Florida, Georgia, LSU, Ohio State, Texas, and USC. Like, dude, why are you in TCU? No disrespect to TCU, but why? One thing that tells me is he's an athlete. He's a decent athlete, and that shows up on film. He moves fairly well, has a decent size strength combination. He's not utilized a lot in their offense. Like I think the most targets he got was against Arizona State, but that was like 6 targets. He had 4 for 60 on that. Other weeks it's like 3 targets, 4 targets, 5 targets here, and those targets are just like stop routes in the middle of a zone or a quick game slant. So I wonder why he's not. Well, I kind of know why he's not utilized more, because they have other wide receivers there on TCU that they're feeding the ball to. So he's a little underutilized. I think he has some athleticism. I don't know about the hands. I've seen him drop a pretty simple slant, pretty much just a concentration drop. But he gets like an incomplete grade for me. I just don't see a ton of them, because and that's another thing, they rotate him with 2 other tight ends. So if they want to go 12 personnel, he's off the field completely. So he gives you effort while blocking. I think he has some speed to get down into the seam route, but he's a bigger question. He's the question mark of this group right now. So pretty much you got to stay tuned to see a little bit more from him.
Yeah, I mean, kind of piggybacking off of that, among the guys we reviewed throughout the course of these 3 weeks, I think Rogers is the one that I'll have, again, like the closest to an incomplete mark on, because I'm still trying to put together what he is as a player. He's a really good athlete. His frame, just looking at the tools he has to work with, one of the better ones in the class. In terms of like the arm, like the size, proportions, it all looks very good on tape. I just needed him to get I need more out of him, essentially. I need to see more production. Frankly, I need a little bit more effort as a run blocker. I think there's some moments where he's just not quite as engaged as I'm looking for at times, but he does have some aggressive hands, I noticed. It kind of comes and goes a little bit. Hand placement does need to get better, so there's some technical elements that he needs to develop as a blocker. But he has the size, and I mentioned like the arm, like it all looks like it should work for as a player who is kind of like this developmental, I'll say like tight end 3 to begin his career, but he has like tight end 2 upside, I think, based on what he has as a tool for his tools. You notice that he covers ground pretty quickly with some long strides. He got good acceleration, especially for a player his size. There was a rep against, I think I want to say it was Colorado, where he like cuts back twice on 2 different defenders on a long run. To me right now, he's at his best when you get him the ball kind of in the flat and just let him go to work, essentially. I think he's still developing his route tree. I noticed that he's not the best at the top of the stem in terms of being able to snap off the route or be able to generate separation up there. So I think he's more of a linear athlete kind of player, but he's got that acceleration. And he does play with a good amount of aggression to try to drive his legs through contact, finish plays falling forward. So I think he's just a superb athlete right now who is, well, maybe superb is a little bit unnecessary, but he's a really good athlete for the position who's just not really rounded into a complete player at this point in time. But you think if he tests well, you're looking at probably second half of day 3 player. You bring him to the roster and you hope you can develop into a tight end 2 in an offense going forward.
So a couple questions on DJ Rogers then. Out of all the tight ends in the class, who would you say is a better athlete than DJ Rogers? It's in this tight end class, Sam.
So it depends on what you're looking for. Kenyon and Sadiq, I would say, like flat out, will just be a better overall athlete in terms of testing and everything, even with the difference in weight. But looking at like Max Claire's not the same size as Rogers, but Max Claire, the twitch he can do at the top of the stem, I'd value that a bit more than maybe Rogers having better acceleration or adjusted speed for a player his size. So I think that Claire's a player who I think athletically I would prefer. Jaren Kanak, obviously, but Kanak's not really a tight end. We kind of went through this discussion last week. Yep. I think those guys, Trig, I would say, is kind of in the conversation. Trig might not have as much linear. Well, no, Trig does have good linear testing abilities. I think he'll actually probably be higher, and he does more at the top of the stem as well. So I'd say those guys immediately popped in my mind. Royer's going to probably be faster, I would say, but Royer is leaner. Kitzelman's not a bad athlete, but he's probably, I think he's not quite on the level of Rogers, I would say. Like Kitzelman's good, but not the level Rogers is. Rogers has better acceleration and kind of has better top speed, in my opinion. And then Eli Stowers is a better athlete, but he's a much leaner player. So he's got more burst to him. So it depends on what you're looking for. Again, like you're looking for someone who can really run routes at a high level. Max Claire's probably not the size-adjusted athlete that Rogers is, but at the same time, he gives you more of that twitch and separation ability you're looking for. Stowers is kind of in a similar bucket. But I would say, like, if you're looking at just pure packing everything together, like Trig and Sadiq are guys who I'd say are probably put above him as athletes in the class.
EJ, how about you from a just rating Rogers' athletic ability versus all the tight ends that you've looked at in the class so far? Where do you have DJ Rogers?
I would say all those guys that Sam mentioned, and I will also add Oscar Delp to that list as well. I think Oscar Delp is a little bit of a more smoother athlete, just as explosive, similar size. I will add Oscar Delp to that list as well. So like in this class, you got like some really good straight line athletes. A lot of it a lot of these guys, what separates them is the lateral agility, and that's the thing DJ Rogers had. But like these guys at the top of the list as far as athleticism, I would say, yeah, like Oscar Delp and like of course Kenyon Sadiq, that's what he is, and pretty much. He like Connect said, he's a smaller guy, but he's a track athlete. But yeah, just those same guys, and I would just add Oscar Delp from Georgia.
Max, what did you think of DJ Rogers?
I'm not gonna lie to you. You've actually got me on a tight end that I haven't watched yet. I was gonna watch him this week, but I got caught up in all the Aronde Gadsden stuff that I had to go back and watch him. Then I went back and watched him at Syracuse again. So yeah,
okay.
I am way behind schedule. But yeah, it's if he's anything like the other air raid tight ends that we typically see, I'm probably not gonna love him. But like he's 6'4", 240 or 6'4", 250. So who knows? I just haven't seen him yet. It's actually it's kind of crazy.
Okay, so Brett Norfleet from Missouri. Sam, what did you have on Brett Norfleet?
So I actually watched Brett Norfleet back when he was a freshman. I was really impressed with him at the time. He was much leaner. He was like 230 or so. Had much more burst in his game back then. And Mark Ness, someone to keep an eye on. Didn't have the best year last year. And coming into this year, I'm a little disappointed. Like the body type is obviously much more in line with what you're trying to look for a guy who can give you a little bit of everything in the NFL. I'm still view him as more like a day 3 type player, though. Unfortunately, I just came back and said this guy doesn't separate a ton right now. He's got useful speed after the catch for a player size, but he's just not a guy who's going to go out there and really beat a lot of people in space. I thought the blocking, like the physicality and the effort were not where I really wanted it to be for him in the trenches. It just doesn't have like the true power, despite the size of the frame, doesn't really have the power and desire to displace defenders the way you're looking for. So I viewing him right now, I just feel like he's a very incomplete player. He's got the tools on paper, and maybe he'll test well, but runs a very limited route tree. Doesn't break a lot of tackles with the catches. Goes down first contact quite often. He'll lunge and whiff on blocks. I don't see a ton of bursts coming off the line of scrimmage. It's just, frankly, been a bit of a downturn for him since his freshman year, and I think that the tape really is not elevated him beyond a day 3 grade for me this season.
EJ, where are you on Brett Norfleet?
Yeah, I would say average to below average athletically by NFL standards. When you watch him blocking, he looks like he's saying "excuse me" after he's done blocking, because like he's just bumping into guys. He's not sustaining his blocks. He's literally just walking up to him, pushing somebody, and going on about his business.
There's that initial pop, right? But then he doesn't actually attach to anything.
Yeah, he's like, okay, I did my job now. I'm going up in my route. And so it's just that little push. He doesn't sustain any blocks. He does no grip strength with his blocks. As far as receiver, yeah, like Sam said, limited route tree. He's like, I watched him versus Alabama. He caught one down the field, and it was a coverage bust. It was a post route. No, it was a corner route. I'm sorry, it's corner route against cover 3, and the number 1 corner for Alabama, he blew the coverage. I mean, he literally just ran out of bounds, and Brett caught the pass and scored a touchdown. But he's got there's no, as far as a route runner, there's some hip stiffness there. There's no real creativity, no wiggle, no burst. Yeah, he's you want to put him in the just a guy category right now, because there's nothing outstanding that he does, no standout trait that he has right now. So at first and foremost, I would like to see him take the physicality up 2 notches, because that's first and foremost, that's going to be his ticket to the league, because it's not going to be him as a receiver. So I would need to see him get a whole lot more physical in order to make it at the next level.
Max, where are you on Brett Norfleet?
Yeah, I'm with everybody. I think you guys nailed it, which is definitely not surprising, but I'm like totally in lockstep. I think that he's the kind of guy where he can block, and if he just played with a different mindset, right? Like so many guys just don't really have the the raw talent that he does, but he just goes, like you said, he does not finish. He doesn't really have that nastiness to him. He doesn't really have that edge to him. It's so confusing to me because he plays in an offense that is so built on the run and runs the ball very well, especially this year. I mean, that's all they do now. So you would think that they would really install that in him. And I guess they do. He does enough for them to run the ball really, really well. But that is definitely frustrating to me as a guy who is so big, strong, and like has really, really long arms, I think, too. Obviously, we have to see the measurement. But, it's all the raw tools are there. And he just, like you guys said, maybe it's a matter of getting in the right NFL system, maybe going to like the Chargers and getting whipped into shape by Harbaugh, right? But something like that. But it is frustrating. And as a receiver, there's the occasional moment where he's able to go box somebody out and go up and get a ball, but that's not really go up and get a ball, just like box somebody out because he's not really jumping, but you can get the hands up there. It's going to be tough to make a living on in the NFL. But yeah, he put on a lot of weight since freshman year, which he needed to do because, like you said, he was super lean. But the athleticism, or at least the hints of it and the hopes of it, have just been completely sapped by that. Which, as far as upside is a killer, but as far as being on an NFL roster, if he were truly that violent blocker, I really think he could carve out like a Colby Parkinson type role for himself and be in the league for a decade. But he's got to develop that. And right now, like it's not even like Jackson Hawes where you can really justify running to the I think you draft him just because of the raw tools there as a blocker and potentially even a red zone guy like Colby Parkinson. But like, I don't know. It's just there should be more. There should be a little bit more here. I'm not expecting Jimmy Graham, but there, like you guys said, there should be more here.
Yeah, he's only a junior, so I imagine he'll go back to school because I don't think there will be that push for him. That won't be that action for him to go to the draft this year. But it's kind of like you mentioned, like it's really frustrating that he had the athletic flashes early in his career, and now they put on the weight. You don't have the athleticism, but you don't have the physicality either. Because he's got like among the guys we're talking about, this is like the most well-developed frame in terms of like the filled outness of it all to go and be an impact player in the NFL in the trenches, like everyone in the class potentially. And there's just absolutely nothing. Like we'll talk about Justin Joly here in a minute, and he's not like a knockout blocker by any means because he's got some frame limitations, but he like puts effort in at least. Like you see, go back and watch a Duke tape this year, and he's got several impact blocks on that tape, and we don't get that from Norfleet, which is really frustrating.
Yeah, like it's the 1-2 with Norfleet. Like I'm never one to question the guy's effort, but it's just he's just out there going through the motions. He's just. I mean, you don't see the aggressiveness, you don't see the want to. So like I'm surprised that coaches are not chewing him out for that type of effort.
Yeah, he's just like it's not. I don't know if he's just like I don't know if it's an effort thing or if it's just like maybe it's like I'm trying to avoid injury thing. There's a million things that can go into it because like like you said, I don't really want to try to get into his head with it. But like, come on, like get in there, dude.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but before we submarine Brett Norfleet too much, let's flip to Justin Joly from NC State. EJ, what do you have on the NC State tight end?
He gives effort. So what I like about Justin Joly, he's a little bit undersized as height wise, and I'm not sure about his arm length, but when you watch him blocking, defenders get to him before he can get to them. That's what made me question the arm length. I don't know. I don't have any measurements on him or anything like that, but he still gives you effort blocking. He drives his feet on contact. So even though the defender is getting to him first and may have the leverage, he's still fighting through that block. And that's just what I say about blocking. Sometimes you don't have to win your block. Sometimes you just got to lose real slow because all you're doing is buying time for the guy to get past you. So I like the effort he gives as a blocking. One thing is where he gets his stance when he's like at an H-back or inline is so low. I mean, I like the lower body flexibility, but I've never seen anything like that before. He gets like it's almost like he's crawling on the ground. His stance is just super low. And it's amazing how he pops right out of that stance at the snap. I watched him as a route runner. He's not overly explosive, not overly fast, but he's a guy that he has a little bit of wiggle at the top of his route stem. I watched him against Notre Dame. Actually, he didn't have a ton of production against Notre Dame, but there were instances where he was wide open and the quarterback just missed him. So they run him on some seam routes. They run him on some actual routes where he has to, not just the little speed outs, but like the deeper outs, the slant routes where he's trying to do some route nuance. He's trying to shake guys at the top of the stem, and it works. He gets a little bit of separation from there. He's a guy that he has some lateral quickness, so if they want to use him in the quick game, they pretty much give him that little stop route, let him work his magic after the catch. So I look at him as pretty much a tight end 2 at best. I think he's a guy that can get you a little bit of receiving production, a little bit of blocking production, not at a high level in any true aspect of the game, but he's a guy. I think he's a serviceable player.
Max, what do you have on Justin Joly?
Yeah, this one's a tough one for me for sure. In part because when I was at UConn, doing my internship with the defensive staff, that was his freshman year. So, I've been around the kid a lot. He's a great kid, at least, from my interactions with him. I actually moved him into his freshman dorm right before we started fall camp. And he was such a nice kid. The amount of work he did in those first 2 years, just to go from this under recruited kid from New York who barely got any looks from the FBS level to a kid who was like, I think 4 or 5 on the depth chart coming out of fall camp at UConn in the first year of the Mora era, and at the time, a program that was viewed nationally as the bottom of the barrel, right? And they've done obviously incredible work to fix that. They're 5-2 right now. I just beat Boston College, but Justin was really, to me, somebody who embodied so much about that early transformation. At the end of the year, he started to really break his way into the lineup. He contributed as a receiver, especially. He was so thin, like he was like 215, 220 that freshman year at like soaking wet. So, it was just interesting to see how that would continue. And then I remember coming back to visit for spring ball a couple times after that. The next year, after I'd moved down to DC, I wanted to just check in on the team, see how everybody was doing, see what the team looked like, and he was just like, he was uncoverable in spring practice. It was incredible. He just moved different from every single other person out there, and so we knew he was going to have a huge year, and he did. And then he transfers to NC State. Power to him. He got a great opportunity there. He had a great year last year. I think more in his natural body type. And I remember hearing sort of some of the rumors from the draft community that he was up over 250. And I don't really think he's at that 263 list weight. Maybe, and if he is, that's a lot, especially for 6'3". But I really couldn't believe that, because he struck me as like an Eli Stowers type physically, who would sit at 230, 235 and live there. And so much of that fluidity and explosiveness in and out of breaks and naturalness as a receiver that was there last year, and that was especially there in his sophomore year at UConn when he was just out of this world. It's just not there in the current frame anymore. And there's so much more stiffness that wasn't there. I was watching him again yesterday in advance of this. Especially the Notre Dame game. It's just that I could never imagine him being that stiff. And the thing that sucks to me the most about this is that he's done everything right. He's put on the weight he needed to put on to become a real NFL tight end. He's worked as a blocker so much over the last couple of years. And I think that with this current weight, with some more technique development, he could actually get to a level where he's serviceable in line in the NFL potentially. But it's just not a weight he's meant to carry and be explosive and athletic. And I just don't know. I just don't know where you go with that, and what type of player he's going to be. So, if he gets back down to like 235, 240, he's a pure rotational guy. But maybe that's the move, right? Maybe that's more useful. I don't know. It's kind of tied me in knots in a lot of ways, just because of what I've seen, what I saw last year, and what that kind of weight add will do to somebody if you're above your natural frame. And I think we kind of see that with Norfleet, even though I just don't think he was like a great athlete to begin with. I think he was just kind of a somewhat fluid guy, and 230, 240, and now he's just 260 and whatever he is at 260. It's just looking at him, he just doesn't feel like a guy who should be in this body. And I just don't think that he's able to make plays the way he would, but at the same time, it just wouldn't translate the same way. So he's done the right thing. I actually like the low stance a lot. Trey McBride does it too, and it's a big way for him to overcome a little bit of that shortness, because they're the same height. So he uses it really well to get underneath defenders and get into their chest. Kenyon Sadiq does as well. So I love that. It's just he's just doing everything right. He's a good kid, and I think there's a role for him just and again, this breaks every rule that I typically follow. But if he actually gets back down to that underweight size and then tries to make it work as a rotational guy there, like a Chigo Conquo type, I think that could work. But I don't know. It just doesn't look right at this frame.
Sam, where are you and Justin Joly?
Yeah, I noticed this year in particular, he looked a little bit more stiff at the top of the stem. I would say, like, the ability to snap things off and work in the lateral game is not really there right now in comparison to what it was in past years, where he could just get in and out so smoothly and create some natural separation there. I feel like the separation this year has been much more middling, which is probably, like Max kind of referenced, due to the additional weight he's added to his frame. Right now, he's pretty heavily reliant on contested catches and like the vertical passing attack right now. Doesn't have the best speed right now. I think the twitch has certainly gone down. He definitely had more of it at the beginning. Definitely at UConn, he had much more twitch than I think he does right now. That was huge for his separation ability. I do think he has improved as a blocker. Of course, I mentioned like the Duke tape this year. I think I had 4 or 5 plays that are marked down where he makes really essential blocks to the play to help out with some quality gains. So I think he's gotten better as a blocker, both in terms of technique and timing. Obviously, the desire is there. You do see like the basis he developed back when he's playing more wide receiver is still there, and how he manipulates leverage, how he's able to change his tempo, that kind of stuff. So like the route running technique is still there, even if physically the tools are not translating the way they used to. You still get like locating holes versus cover 2. So there's a lot of stuff to like here from his upside as a receiver, and you love the effort he puts in. Like Max kind of mentioned right now, he's not the way he's going to win and the way he's built right now are not paired together ideally. So I think he's got to make some adjustments in the offseason. I still think he can be like a midday 3 player, because there's certainly something there. And you look at like the body control and at the catch point, and even working on the sideline, the ability to get both feet down, and it's all there from like a contested catch standpoint too, which is why he's been able to be so successful even at his current weight in certain areas. But I think he does need to make some adjustments here, and he needs to go to a team that has a vision for how he's going to impact the offense.
Okay. Eli Raridon from Notre Dame. Max, you want to kick this one off?
Yeah, tight end 1 contender right now.
He's really good. He's really good.
He's insanely sick. Yeah, he's fluid. He's got quick feet. He's controlled and sort of bendy in the hips. He's precise. He does good work with his hands as a route runner. He understands leverage well. He gets to the right spots. He leans in. He snaps stuff off. Good example of all that is that over route against Boise State that the refs stole from him by excusing the safety's lack of participation in the weight room. It's terrible. I thought it was a terrible call, but I loved it. I definitely have that one saved. Just the way he's able to lean in on that stair step and snap it off and then accelerate into it with the weight behind him to create that kind of separation on a safety. I think the wide receiver test passer type guys like your Brock Bowers are super rare, and I'm not talking about him in that vein, sure, or for sure, of course. But the way he is able to athletically work on safeties like that, and of course linebackers in the underneath with that precision, with those quick feet, with that short area feel, as well as that long fluidity and ability to sink in and out of stuff. It's such a nice movement profile. He works the seams well, and he's just getting better week by week as this passing offense kind of comes together. Like, we've kind of seen that for sure. He's caught the ball downfield. He's explosive. He's good in the flats. He's good in the underneath. As a blocker, I think it's a little bit more inconsistent than I would like, especially this season. I think for starters, he probably has a length issue. He certainly looks like it when he's blocking. But at the same time, he's 6'7", low 250s, probably going to settle into mid to high 250s in the NFL, I think, because I think he was probably closer to that last year. And I actually really liked him as a blocker last year. So it's definitely in there. I think he's just spent a lot of time trying to develop as a route runner this offseason because they talked about it. Their coaches talked about it in the media all offseason about how much they were going to need this guy as a receiver. I thought he blocked pretty well against USC. He was very, very important, clearing the edges on all kinds of stuff. I love him. I think that he's got a complete profile, and what's not there in the blocking, I think, is potentially projectable, even though the length issue is not ideal. Maybe he shows up at the combine and I get that wrong, and it's just it's sort of a strike initiation kind of deal, but it does look like a length issue. At the same time, though, as a receiver, it's really all there. The body type is there. He was second in my midseason Mackey Award rankings. I think he's been probably their best player besides CJ Carr and Jeremiah Love on offense. And I think he's a stud. And I think if he finishes this season strong and has a good combine, like, he could push his way into the first round.
Okay. Sam, where are you in Eli Raridon?
Yeah, so I liked him a lot in the summer. I had a fifth on him in the summer, which is I'll say it's pretty good considering how little he'd been involved in the passing attack up to that point. Like Max mentioned, a lot of the things I liked about him doing my summer evaluation was based on his ability to block, because I know he's obviously very tall and at least a somewhat lean frame, but I think his blocking, like his, I'll say, anchor and his ability to not get driven back in the ring game was pretty huge to me. Showcased really good willingness and aggression. And I think you still see some of that this year, but it's definitely, like Max mentioned, more inconsistent with his ability to land and sustain blocks. We see that happen a lot, though, with tight ends when they become more involved in the pass games. Actual pass catchers, generally the blocking ability sometimes takes a bit of a dip. You got to put some faith in the NFL coaching staff to be able to get him mentally in the right state where he can do both at a high level. And Raridon is a guy who's going to be a top 100 player for me this year based on the upside he's showcased throughout the course of the season. One reason why he might not actually be that for the NFL is he's had 2 right ACL tears in the course of his career. He suffered one as a high school senior playing basketball, and then he retore that in practice in October of 2022. So I'm expecting a medical red flag. Obviously, I'm not a doctor, so I can't begin to tell you what any of that means. It might mean nothing. We've seen it before with guys who've had knee injuries in college and it has not impacted them in the NFL. But that being said, Raridon might not have the best speed overall. He is a 3-level threat. You can go back and watch like his tape. I think it was North Carolina State this year, where it's just like 15-plus yard dig, 25-plus yard deep over route, 30-plus yard corner route, like through contact. Like, it's just back over and over and over again. And there have been times this year where he's been open or he's gotten open and Carr hasn't been able to get him the ball when he's in a situation where he should have a big gain. I know he had some drops early against Miami early in the season, which was a little concerning. He's cleaned those up. That hasn't been a problem since then. He's still had some really good blocks across the course this year. I think go back to the Texas A&M game, there were quite a few in there. I think one that helped spring a touchdown run. So to me, this is a player who has really developed into a guy who can be a starter for you at the NFL level. Athletically, he's like better than you would expect for his frame, and that's like I'm not trying to like limit him there. Like, he's got some really surprisingly sharp cuts and ability to snap off the route at the top of the stem. There's speed to draw attention downfield. He's a mismatch, obviously, with the size to tower over defensive backs and finish contested catches over them, and also got like the get off of the line of scrimmage and the speed to stack linebackers. You will see sometimes DBs recover to him late in the route, but even then, he's got the size and the concentration at the catch point to finish those catches, despite having guys in his airspace. So Raridon's one of the players who I liked in the summer, but I've really come to love throughout the course of the season so far.
Love hearing it. EJ, where are you and Eli Raridon from Notre Dame?
Yeah, he's a good player. I watched him right after I watched Norfleet. So I was immediately in love with his blocking. I'm like, oh, this guy is legit. But he is. I like his blocking. I don't have going forward, like at the next level, I wouldn't have a problem. I think he can develop into a guy that you would feel comfortable leaving on a 5 technique on certain reps. I like the effort. I like that he drives his feet on contact. I like the fact that when he is blocking, sometimes if he's blocking on the move, or sometimes they ask him to do a kick out block, it's not just a stalemate. He's moving another guy against his will. So he has that type of play strength. He's just a naturally large man, and it's not like a guy that's bulked up. It's a natural size to him where he has the fluidity to go with it. As a receiver, he's a zone beater. He destroys zones. A lot. I watched him versus Texas A&M, and I watched him against North Carolina State. Against North Carolina State, they did 2 reps of cover 1 against him. What it is that they did cover 1 against Notre Dame, and he hit him with a seam route. It was a corner route, and the middle linebacker had him in coverage. For one, the middle linebacker had no chance of running with him at all, because what straight line speed he has, it's not super explosive or anything like that, but it's a long stride, and it's decent speed. The middle linebacker had no shot of keeping up with him. And second of all, like the middle linebacker, his first responsibility was his eyes was in the backfield, and by the time he even got his head around, Raridon was already behind him. So, and the thing is, like the offensive coordinator at Notre Dame saw that, and so this second series or a series right after that, they went right back to that exact same play. And at this time, the middle linebacker, give him credit, he caught up to him, but it was a pass interference. So it was a chunk play either way. So he has that type of speed. Against Texas A&M, he just destroyed their zones, cover 3, cover 4. He was running, he's credit to him. He knows what depth to get on his routes to sit in the holes into the zone, but they were doing a whole lot of lift and replace passing concepts, and he was just sitting there in the holes right there wide open. That's where the chunk plays came from. And as far as he does have some contested catch, you see he has those big hands. He has the catch radius to have to be consistent with the contested catches. So I like him as a tight end that can. I want to send him mostly on vertical routes. I want to use that stride length. I want to use that long speed. So pretty much, if you have a team where you have, say, like a mobile quarterback, and the defense wants to play zone, play too high, play zone, and keep everything in front of him, he'll eat that defense alive every time. And if you want to play man, he'll win in contested catches, or he'll run straight line and he'll run away from you. So he's a guy that can beat you in multiple facets of the game, and he's a guy that you can keep on the field all 3 downs. So I think he's a very strong player. He does have I would say he has some more development to go as far as a route runner. It's not a lot of nuance to his routes. I think he has a little ways to go with that, but that will come with coaching and reps. That's something that's teachable. So, as far as where he's going, I would say I wouldn't be surprised if he went on day 2. He's that type of talent, and it's not a lot of guys that I'm going to put ahead of him either.
Okay. So, I was looking to make sure we had gone all the way around on Raridon. So the last tight end that we're going to cover is Kenyon Sadiq from Oregon. EJ, you want to tell everybody about Kenyon Sadiq if they don't already know?
Yeah, right. That picture got to be from Penn State, isn't it? Because that the graphic on there, it's got to be.
Yeah, he's jumping over. There was a player that he was jumping over, but I have. I don't remember.
I watched that game. Yeah, that was a Penn State game. I watched that tape. He's an excellent player, excellent athlete. One thing about Kenyon Sadiq is you got to understand what he is and what he is not. He's not. As far as an inline blocker or anything like that, Raridon got him beat. You don't want him being your inline blocker. It's going to stay in max protection and all that. You don't want that's a waste of his talents keeping him there. What he is good at, he's good at as a move blocker, as a pretty much on those split zones, pretty much anything where he's gaining momentum. He has all the effort in the world as far as a blocker, but he's just, he's limited in his size, 6'3", 245. That's undersized for the tight end position nowadays. So, but you want to keep him on the move. That's where his physicality and his aggressiveness as a blocker will show. As far as a receiver, he's almost like a slot receiver out there. He has excellent speed, excellent straight line speed, excellent quickness. He has run after the catch ability. He has everything you want in a tight end, whether you want to run quick game stuff and let him run after the catch, or whether you want to go over the top with him. So he's a true mismatch for defensive backs and linebackers, because you can't put a safety on him because he'll outmuscle him. You can't put a linebacker on him, he'll run away from him. He's one of the true mismatch players. You want to feature him in the pass game and use his blocking as icing on the cake. He's a guy that you want to feature in your pass game, and then pretty much just let him do his numbers there. You want, say if you have him as your top tight end, you're going to want a blocker in your 12 personnel, because you don't want to wear him down and you don't want to expose him to all that heavy lifting. But as he's a true receiver at the tight end position, and he's one of the few tight ends in this class that can actually create on his own. Like, as far as you can put him in a slot, go run a route and get separation against man coverage. He's one of the few tight ends that can actually do that by himself. Other guys say you got to scheme up, or you got to put him when you know you're going to get zone coverage. But he's a guy, he can create separation on his own. He has that lateral quickness at the top of the stem. He has quick feet. So he's everything you want as far as a receiver in the tight end. But he's got, I would say somebody would take him second round at the latest. I'm not sure, depending on how the board goes. Not sure if he'll go like top 10, but he has first round talent.
Max, where are you on Kenyon Sadiq right now?
Pretty high. Not as high as pretty much everybody else like out there, but pretty high. I think, admittedly, I'm holding him to a higher standard as a receiver than pretty much everybody else, just because of his raw athletic ability, which is going to be insane at the combine. Like, I think he's probably going to run in the 4.5s. His 3 cones probably going to be under 7. His vert and broad are going to be crazy. His shuttle is going to be good. I can't really think of a test that he's not going to be sick at. He's a freak show as an athlete. I love his attitude as a blocker. I think he wants to be an elite blocker just as much as he wants to be an elite receiver, maybe more. He takes it super seriously. His technique is really good. He gets in there and he gives you more effort than anybody else in this class. He's more of a finisher. He's more ferocious. He's just got more dog in him than anybody else out here. He's the toughest tight end out here. He's the most physical. The tough thing is that I worry about the frame. 6'3", 245 is generally okay. Like, you look at Sam Laporta and Trey McBride, that's kind of where they're sitting at. It's enough, but if you look at the bodies of those 3 guys, Sadiq looks different. I don't think he has the same amount of thickness through the middle, especially in the chest and the midsection, which I'd really, really like to see, because I think he lacks some of the upper body strength to control defenders as a blocker. And when your technique is this good in college, and you have long enough arms, you should be controlling defenders. And he can win initially with that power and that violence, but guys will control and shed him a little bit, especially the guys that are anything like what he'll see in the NFL. And I think if you get to the point where you truly do have to handcuff him to another tight end, you're like, he becomes as much of a limitation as he does a weapon, because I don't think that the receiving, I think that the athleticism is off the charts. I don't think that the receiving is yet. I think that there's a lot of, he does a lot of stuff, right? Like, he stretches the seams well, he creates after the catch in the flats really well. But if you look at what he's doing right now, in a lot of cases, it's very much wide tight end stuff. It's seams, it's flats, it's kind of and a lot of screens. It's very much like the same stuff Tucker Kraft gets open on. So if you're going to be, even if he gets to a point where he's serviceable in line like Sam Laporta and Trey McBride and TJ Hawkinson, I'm going to need to see a lot more separation, a lot more precise route running. Like I want to see from him the kind of stuff that we saw from Rondé Gadsden at Syracuse. Like I want to see that kind of not just fluidity, but that kind of ability to set up and separate on defenders, that kind of ability to run routes like a receiver. And Gadsden is not athletic enough to play receiver, but he does run routes like one. And he does have the understanding of deceleration and leverage and tempo and the ability to sink in and out of stuff. And Sadiq has all of the raw athletic tools to be great at all of this. But I want to see him out there in the slot working choice routes. I want to see him snapping off corners on glances. I want to see him, working digs from all three positions. I want to see him at the actual slot, pulling away on slot phase. I want to see him, running like comeback routes. I want to see him doing actual wide receiver stuff right now, because even if the fact of the matter is, if he can't play in line at the NFL level, there's like a 95% chance he just ends up being Isaiah Likely, which is not worth a first round pick. But if with his willingness and his development and his violence, I think there's a chance, probably a better than 50% chance he can get to that point. I think he'll just get to that point, but I think he can get to that point. But if you're going to be like Sam Laporta, if you're going to be like TJ Hawkinson, if you're going to be like Trey McBride, I need to see more chops as a route runner, and I need to see more of that down-to-down sustainable stuff, because he's kind of, I don't want to say a passenger in their passing game, but he's just kind of one of the guys, and that is not a great receiver room besides Decorian Moore, who's still a freshman. Like, you need to be, I want to see more from him. And again, I'm admittedly holding him to a higher standard, because if he were 6'5", 250, I'd be like, yep, first round pick, no question. But I want to see him do that over the second half of the season. I don't think I'll have, even if the draft were today, any lower than a top 60 grade on him. So I don't think we're all that far off. I'm not saying he's a bad prospect or anything, because again, he's going to be such a maniac tester. But like, I think that a lot of what we're seeing in him right now is still a little bit more hypothetical than it needs to be. And again, if he were bigger, he would not have to hit that standard. And I'm not even asking him to pass that wide receiver test, right? Because that would be Brock Bowers territory coming out of college. But I am asking him to not be a similar level of receiver right now to Eli Raridon. You got to clear that guy. And I love Raridon as a receiver.
So do you have Raridon higher right now, Max? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but like to me, 1 through 4 are all in this cluster that are all very close to each other. So it almost doesn't matter.
Yep. And we're going to get to 1 through 4 after Sam tells us what he likes about Kenyon Sadiq. And we're going to talk about your top 4 here in a minute. Go ahead, Sam.
Max and EJ hit him pretty comprehensively, so I won't add too much to the conversation, but obviously he's an explosive athlete who blocks his ass off. Right now, I think like the route development is what we need to see. The route tree really needs to fill out. He's also a player who like doesn't do a good job avoiding contact or playing through contact early in the route at this point in time. Like, his release package is very basic. He will actually like run himself into contact at times, so he'll get bumped off his route stem. So he's a player who needs to develop, again, in terms of like the manipulation of leverage, the tempo, and how to just avoid contact early in the route, working creative release, that kind of stuff, so he doesn't get impacted early in the play. Because right now, I think that's when you see him lose sometimes, it's a lot of times he gets too much contact early in the route, or it's because he doesn't get through his break cleanly. Not that they have run to many dynamic routes to begin with right now. That's kind of where I view him. He's going to be a top 40 player for me right now. I have a second round grade on him. So I don't have him like that rare first round bucket. I only give out like 12 to 15 first round grades a year anyways. But he's still like a very good player. But I think some of the discussions they've had around him is probably partially due to the lack of superb talent in this class to begin with, I would say at the top, like the lack of true first round grades. But I do think some of the conversation has gotten a little bit, or like centered around how agile and how superb an athlete he is, and has avoided some of the technical development that needs to happen.
Yeah, that's such a good point. That's just that's stuff that I actually kind of wish when I was finished talking that I had said about the route stuff. So that was great stuff.
Okay, so we have finished going through a decent number of what we think are the draftable tight ends. I believe we have covered over the last 3 weeks, we have covered 18 tight ends. On average, 14 tight ends get drafted. I heard Brett Norfleet probably will go back to school, so no guarantee that everybody we podcasted on is in the draft. On average, 3 + 2 + 1 is 6. On average, 6 tight ends go in the top 100. Sam, are you over or under 6 tight ends in the top 100 as you project this tight end class?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still restacking my board, which I know I've said it every time I've been on the show for the past 2 weeks, but I would be under at this point. I think I'm probably sitting at 4, I would say. There's maybe like one guy, if we're doing like predictively, is probably hovering around that range who might go in that area. So I think we're looking at 4 to 5. I think 6 would be a bit of a stretch here to get here for this year. And if we did happen, it'd be because there's just a lack of overall depth in the class to begin with. But
so who are those 4 tight ends? Who are those 4 tight ends that you think are going to be in your top 100?
Yeah, so that would be Raridon, Sadiq, Claire, and Delp for me are the 4. If I had to, again, like predictively had to put money on one guy who would get into the top 100 as well, I think Royer's probably going to had a lot of hype. I know like there were some scouts who were high on him going into the year. There were some scouts who were high on him after last season. So there's going to be some love for him in NFL rooms as far as maybe being a top 100 player. So Royer would be the guy who I would put into the bucket as predictively being in that range.
EJ, how about you? How many tight ends out of the ones that we evaluated do you see they might be able to crack your top 100?
I would say about 3 definitely, and 2 I'm still on the fence about. The 3 is Raridon, Sadiq, and Claire. Trig and Royer, I'm on the fence about, so I might wind up putting them in my top 100. I haven't decided yet, but as far as 6 in the top 100, I would go under, but I think that's the thing with, like, there is some depth in this class, but I think the run on these tight ends is going to happen like at the end of the third or middle to end of the third round and into the 4th round. That's where I think you're going to see the run on these guys.
And Max, how about you? How many tight ends do you project to be in your top 100?
In my top 100, I think right now I have 5. It's the ones Sam had and Daquan Wright. Unless I'm forgetting somebody, I don't think so. I think that's probably it. I think that'll probably happen. I think the combine's going to change some things, and I think it's gonna open some eyes about some guys that I like, Delp in particular, that I think aren't getting enough love right now as far as what the consensus boards are on them. I think we will, especially with the value that the NFL is placing on tight ends right now, and kind of the fact that the supply has not met the demand that has really risen in the last 2 to 3 years. So I think people are going to try to take guys a little bit earlier than they otherwise would over the last decade. So I think probably about that 5, I would say.
So EJ, out of all the tight ends we evaluated, who are your top 2 or 3 or favorite inline blockers out of the 18 that we've discussed the last 3 weeks?
Just as far as inline blockers, I would say Raridon. I like Tanner Aiken from Illinois. If you just want a blocker, I'll go with him all day. And I would say third one, I would say honestly, Oscar Delp. I would go Oscar Delp as an inline blocker as well, because I like his all-around game. So those are my top 3 favorites right now.
Max, how about you for your top inline blockers in the class?
Like,
whether you want it to be 2 or 4.
Is it at the pure skill or like just the pure skill of inline blocking, or is it as like that type overall as overall prospects?
Let's go with that type.
Okay, because in that case,
clarification.
Because like if we were to do pure inline blockers, it'd be like some guys nobody's ever heard of. But like, as far as that goes, I don't really like tight ends that I don't think can block in line at the NFL level. So like, I would say it's probably just gonna be like my top 3 tight ends. Period. I would say right now, if I had to say my top 3, and it's in like no order because I can't really decide on number 1 because I don't really know what to do with Max Clare. Because I'm kind of confused. I'm kind of confused about him just in general a little bit. Because I don't know like if he's carrying extra weight well enough. But like it's very confusing. Anyway, so I'll just lean on what I thought before like I started second guessing that stuff. I would say number 1, if it's so hard because there's a reason not to make all of them number 1, right? Like Oscar Delp visually looks like number 1, but he doesn't have any production. And I would say number 1 right now is probably Daquan Wright. Then I would say Eli Raridon. Then I would say Oscar Delp. And then Kenyon Sadiq is just like right behind them, with Max Clare as well. And they're all like, again, ranking them feels like almost a waste of time because they're so close that it may be different tomorrow.
Right. And we have a lot of games left, right? So this podcast is before Halloween. So if somebody's watching this closer to the draft, this is there's a reason we do mid-season scouting reports, right? Because I know I'm going to be pinging each of you as we finish the regular season to ask you what your tight end boards are. But right now we're just doing it on the podcast. But Sam, if you have to think of who you think the best inline tight ends would be, the best inline blocking tight ends in this class are, where does your head go?
Yeah, it's pretty much like Raridon, Delp, Arkin, and Sadiq are the guys who I'd probably be willing to work with the most in that area. Obviously, Arkin has less receiving upside than the other guys mentioned. That's probably where I would end up from this group. That's really what I'm trusting. And then the Ohio State tight end, who I haven't graded him yet, but I've watched him on tape a few times. Kekmeric is also pretty good as a blocker. But again, like predominantly not used a ton in the passing game. He just kind of splits a lot of reps with that group. So if you're looking for more like a specific type player in the class, maybe he would be like your late day 3 kind of guy.
Awesome. So I appreciate all you guys coming on the podcast. So if you are not already following Sam, EJ, and Max, give those guys a follow on Twitter. And while you're doing that, Sam, do you want to tell everybody about your Substack and all of the other great things that you do?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Sam_Teets33. You can also find me on Substack at Sports Talk with Sam Teets. It's a free newsletter that goes out 3 to 5 times a week with recaps of the best performances from prospects over the weekend. It's got draft reports, it's got big boards, all that kind of stuff you can check out, and it's totally free. We got over 1,000 subscribers, over 1,700 followers. So if you feel like checking out some more draft stuff more frequently, feel free to hop over. And it's, again, totally free content for you to go check out.
EJ.
Yeah, pretty much you can catch me every Thursday and Friday on the Mrs. Irrelevant podcast. Thursdays at 9 o'clock, Fridays 7 o'clock. You can catch me pretty much at the end of the draft season. I do scouting reports for the Rogue Analytics Draft Guide. I'll probably be covering defensive back, so look out for that at the end of the cycle. And pretty much you can catch me on X, pretty much doing film-based evaluations, scheme-based evaluations, a lot of NFL draft content right there. Pretty much I don't do clickbait, rage bait, or hot takes. And as always, I will never, ever, ever use the word generational. And don't call me generational, Jim.
You're on a generational podcast. How's that?
Well, I think all tight ends are generational in their own. No, so I run a Substack called Remember the Tight Ends. It's less draft focused for most of the year, though. When draft season kicks into gear, it's gonna obviously be about that. It's about the tight end position in general. This week I did a couple different things on Aronde Gadsden because he's obviously kind of the talk of the town as far as the position goes, league wide. So you can check that out. It's called Remember the Tight Ends. It's also totally free. Yeah, I started that back in December, and it's humming along. So I'm pretty excited about it. And you can follow me on Twitter at MaxToscano1. Everything I do ends up there. So that's a great place to find it.
Good. And Max, if you get to DJ Rogers, I would love to hear what you have to say. So just, ping me to go read your Substack or something.
Yeah, I'll definitely get to him. Maybe tonight even. You sound enthusiastic, so now I'm kind of excited.
Well, and I admire what you guys do, right? I don't know how to analyze film, but I was watching the TCU North Carolina game, and I saw a tight end flash, both blocking and receiving. So I just go and look them up, and then I have to talk to people smarter than me, like EJ, and say, did I see this right? And then we talk about it on a podcast. And that's the basic formula for draft professors. I definitely also want to give EJ a shout out. EJ, you've been podcasting 2 nights a week for the last 3 weeks. So you're doing running backs on Thursdays and tight ends on Friday. So I am thrilled that you could double dip. Truly appreciative of your time and effort.
Oh, yes. It's my pleasure. I love talking draft. So anytime.
Awesome. So if you have not seen Draft Professor before, the best way to follow us is to go to @NFL Draft Fanatic on YouTube or Twitter. The YouTube, we podcast at 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. every weeknight. And then we also have a podcast on Saturday morning and Sunday morning. And we are covering the draft. We are deep diving 8 players at a time. Next Friday is Halloween, no podcast. Starting on November 7th, you will see Sam, James Foster, Anthony Russo breaking down linebackers. The linebackers they will be covering on November 7th include Jake Golday from Cincinnati, Bryce Botcher from Oregon, Lander Barton from Utah, Ernest Hausman from Michigan, Scooby Williams from Texas A&M, Kyle Lewis from Pittsburgh, Alex Safari Jr. from Kentucky, and Jacob Rodriguez from Texas Tech. So those are 8 linebackers, and then there will be 3 linebacker podcasts in total. So we will be podcasting on 24 linebackers the same way that we podcasted on the tight ends here. For Sam, EJ, Max, give those gentlemen a follow, please, and thank you. For the 105 podcasters at the Draft Professor, thank you for tuning in, everybody, and we will see you on a podcast again at 9:15 p.m. tonight. Thank you.